We're trapped in an abandoned hospital on No Sleep by Roseblack2222. Relax, Drake told me. Relax? I snapped back. How can I relax when we found him with half his face chewed off? To give some context, me and my roommate/friend were hard up for cash. Bills and rent were due, so when we saw flyers advertising a scavenger hunt with a cash prize, we jumped on it like white on rice. Aside from us, there were somewhere between 20 and 40 other people. We each divided into groups of 5, agreeing to divide the money amongst ourselves. Even split 5 ways, we'd each still be getting a good chunk of change. Along with Drake and I, there's also a couple whose names are Lola and Miller. Plus, there was a guy named Robert who went by Bob. Not to sound harsh, but he was the dead weight of our group. No pun intended. While we would do the searching, he would step away to take a drink. Now, we were busy searching the area, an abandoned hospital, and we'd found him dead in one of the surgery rooms. This is all kinds of fucked, I said. Some addicts probably did this. Fucking bath salts. I don't think so. Look at him. I really don't want to. Just do it. I forced my gaze upon Bob's lifeless corpse once again. Okay, so aside from making me feel like throwing up, what am I supposed to be seeing here? Those aren't human teeth marks. What? I took a closer look, scrunching up my nose at the smell. Drake was right. Neither of us were experts. However, it was clear those bite marks could not have come from any normal person. That, of course, raised the disturbing question of what exactly was doing this then. I don't know what did this to him, and I don't care, I said. All I know is that we should warn the others and then get the fuck out of here. Just then we heard a low croaking sound. The hell is that? Beats me. Maybe it's a floor. Glancing around showed us no answer to the question. Then our eyes fell back on Bob. Instantly, I felt my stomach knot up. It's probably just some gas escaping him, Drake said, trying to sound reassuring. This was immediately disproven when Bob sat up. You were saying, I said, slowly backing away. He let out a deafening wail, lunged at us. We tried jumping out of the way, but he caught Drake by his shirt, pulling him down. Do something, he yelled, trying desperately to keep Bob from biting him. I've always wondered in some kind of zombie apocalypse if my response would be fight, flight, or freeze. I'm not proud to say it was the former. There were some old medical tools in the room, one of which was a scalpel. I grabbed it and ran to Bob, stabbing him in the temple. It would seem that he could still feel pain because he screamed when I did it and turned his focus on me. He chased me around the surgery table for a minute or so until Drake clonked him in the back of the head. He did this with the leg of an old cart that he managed to break off. He kept beating Bob until he stopped moving. He yelled and cursed while doing this, and I saw this almost deranged look in his eyes. Drake, I said in a low voice as I was approaching him. Back the fuck off, he threatened, spinning around and pointing his weapon at me. Wow, dude, chill. It's me. I raised my hands to show I wasn't a threat to him. Huh? Oh, my bad. Sorry, I got a little carried away. Bob's blood pooling on the floor told me that a little was an understatement. But we had more important things to worry about. Namely, Lola walking into the room and finding us covered in blood with a dead body on the floor. The fact Drake was still holding the now caked with gore cart leg didn't help to disprove her notion. Her eyes grew wide when she saw us. She ran, and we chased after her. Miller was right outside the room as well and freaked out when he saw us chasing her. They tried to get away, but ended up tripping over some discarded rope, and we jumped on them, pinning them down. Then we tied them up, gagging their mouths with some shirts and dragging them into a nearby room. Okay, I told him, letting out a deep breath. If we let you talk, do you promise not to yell or scream? They nodded, and Drake pulled the shirts from their mouths. Upon doing so, they began screaming at the top of their lungs for help, so their mouths were regagged. Any ideas? Drake asked. I'm Trying to think, I replied, pacing back and forth. Fuck, this is bad. Maybe we should just call the police. Hell no. If these two think we killed Bob, so will the cops. Shit, you're right. Sorry, my brain is like scrambling right now. We turned back to Lola and Miller to see that they looked confused, presumably at our claim. You two still don't believe us, I said to them. They gave us a stare as if to say, obviously not. Well, then why haven't we killed you already? We've had plenty of time to do it. They seemed to consider it. Look, could you at least hear us out? They nodded again, and for the second time were ungagged. I proceeded to explain what really happened. You can even look at his body, Drake added. You'll see he was already dead before we found him, or at least he should have been. That means whoever or whatever did it might still be here, so we need to stick together. Otherwise we could all end up like Bob. Although reluctant, they complied with us. We untied them, and then the four of us headed back to the other room. There we saw Bob's body was no longer there, and we lost our collective shit. That brings us to now. We've decided to call the cops. After all, seeing as how if a Bob is still alive, we can say our previous actions were self-defense. Plus, Lola and Miller agreed to vouch for us. We've locked ourselves in this room, and we're waiting for the police to arrive. I feel bad for the poor bastards who run into Bob. I'm typing this on my phone, so I'll update when I can. This place is cold. I'm sure I don't need to go into detail why sleeping on a hospital floor, let alone one that's been abandoned, isn't very comfortable. Such was our case, because we're still stuck here. The cops did arrive. Unfortunately, things didn't turn out how we hoped. To make a long story short, we heard several gunshots, followed by screams, and what sounded akin to sticks being snapped in half. We called 911 and informed them that the officers they sent out weren't doing so hot. We didn't say it exactly like that, but they got the idea. Much to our dismay, they informed us that a blizzard was knocking up outside and that it would take a bit for more help to arrive. They can't be serious, Lola said, wrapping her blanket around herself tighter. It's nearly the end of March. We found a store of some, and they helped us keep warm for the night. What rotten luck, Miller said. I don't even remember seeing anything about snow when I checked the weather yesterday. Never mind a freaking blizzard. Well, the way I see it, we should get the fuck out of here before it gets really bad, I told him. Getting to the first floor should have been a relatively straightforward process, or it would have been if it weren't for the people trying to kill us. We already knew to be on the lookout for Bob. However, we didn't expect that he wasn't the only threat to us. I'm pretty sure the stairs are this way, Drake whispered to us as we were walking through the halls. Wait. A low growling echoed to us. I don't like that at all, I told Drake. We don't have anything to worry about. There's four of us and we're all armed. We snapped more legs off chairs to use as makeshift weapons. The noise was followed by several louder instances of it and the thudding of heavy footsteps ascending the stairs. Okay, how about now? I asked. Yeah, we better hide. We locked ourselves in another room. My heart skipped a beat as the sounds were now near the door. This is where the things get really fucked up. A window was in the door in which we could partially see into the hall from our position. The people passing by the door, while humanoid, were most certainly not human. We know they weren't because A, people usually aren't that massive. We're talking levels of muscle that would put gorillas to shame. B, I've yet to see anyone with pulsating purple veins running up and down their skin. Until then. C, they had more than 2 eyes. D, we could see bullet holes in some of them, and they didn't seem the least bit fazed by that fact. What in the fuck was that? Miller asked. How do you expect us to know? I replied. Jesus Christ, that means there's probably more of those things running around here. At least they'll be easy to spot, Lola pointed out. Yeah, we can take solace in the fact that when they catch us and do who knows what to us, Drake responded. Miller didn't take kindly to that. She's only trying to stay optimistic, unlike you, who's clearly fine with giving up. I've worked with Drake for years now, and when he reaches his limit, I'll see him get this "not going to take any more shit" expression. The times that this has happened have resulted in physical altercations on more than one occasion. The best way I can put it is weird people come into a store late at night, and by weird, I mean drunk or high, and high doesn't mean weed. Stoners we're okay with most times. They only buy a fuck ton of junk food and leave. The others, on the other hand, we've needed to kick out with extreme force. I'm getting off track, though. Seeing that an argument was on the verge of brewing, I intervened. "Look, obviously we're all under a lot of stress," I said, "but arguing won't help. So let's keep our eyes and ears open, and we might make it out of here." We listened closely, confirming that those creatures were gone. We made our way back to the stairs, descending them. Now, what we expected was to simply go down several flights of stairs and then head for the exit. This went well for the first 2 floors. Then we discovered the next door was blocked by debris. "You've got to be fucking kidding me," I said. "We're trapped?" "There's probably another exit," Lola stated. "It's probably on the other side of the building." "What if it's blocked off too?" "Do you have any better ideas?" Miller asked me. When I replied I didn't, we began walking to the other stairs. While doing so, it dawned on me how strange it was that we hadn't seen any of the other contestants. Including us, there was a total of 6 groups. True, we had been up there for a long time prior to the stuff with Bob going down. However, it was weird that we didn't see anyone else before then. I wanted to point this out, but figured it could wait. In the ad, it did mention that the hospital would have its electricity on for the duration of the contest. This was true until the lights went out with no warning. "Must be the storm outside," Drake said. "Everyone join hands so we don't lose anybody." We continued on for a little while. "Miller, your hand's really sweaty," I said to him before remembering I was the one in the back. "Guys," I whispered, trying to keep the panic from making my voice rise. What was currently holding my other hand wasn't really sweaty. Rather, it felt slimy. Despite this, its grip was strong. Heavy breathing was loud behind me. Whatever this thing was, it was different from the monsters we saw previously. "Miller," I said, "could you please let go of my hand for a moment? My arm itches." When he let go, I quickly used the sharp end of my chair leg to stab in it what was presumably one of its eyes. It let go, stumbling back while letting out a choked gurgle. I told everyone to run, and we hauled ass. The creature let out a shriek which became accompanied by the heavy thudding of the monsters we glimpsed previously. They were gaining on us fast, leaving us no choice but to go into the nearest room. Once inside, we pushed a table in front of the door. It's pretty heavy, so we're hoping it'll hold long enough for what we're planning to do next. They're outside waiting for us to come out. In the meantime, I was able to type this all out. As for what we're trying to do, this room has a closet in it, which we found some rope. It should be long enough to reach the lower floor's window. Considering the blizzard, my hopes of this going well aren't exactly high. Still, we have to try something. Hopefully, I'll be able to update tomorrow. If I don't, that means I probably died. Good news, we're not dead yet. Bad news, we're still stuck in here. Back in high school, I did decently in gym class. Unfortunately, the aspect of it I struggled with the most was rope climbing. Now that was coming back to bite me in the ass. We secured the rope to an old bed in the room, which was too long to fit through the window horizontally. Then, using an old metal chair, Drake shattered the window. Since this hospital is older, the ones here are easy to break. Flurries furiously whipped against us. I was already having second thoughts, and this only reinforced them. "Are you sure about this?" I shouted at Drake over the roaring wind. "Just make sure you hold on tight," he replied. "I'll go first. When I make it, I'll tug on the rope." We watched him jump backwards out the window, instantly becoming obscured by the snow. The bed frame was dragged scraping across the floor. I was afraid it would be pulled out the window, sending him to his death. This didn't turn out to be the case, thankfully. I think we all felt relief when he tugged the rope after reaching the lower floor. Lola went next, followed by Miller and then me. Each time one of us went, we had to move the bed frame back. All right, no problem, Gus, I thought to myself. If you slip, it's only a little fall that will almost certainly kill you. It also occurred to me that if I did survive the fall, it would mean freezing to death outside. As an aside, self-motivation has never been a big strength of mine. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed hold of the rope, then hopped out the window. As it turns out, though, ice makes things slippery. I felt my hand slide down the rope fast. A number of oh shits escaped my mouth as this was happening. Luckily, I managed to swing myself into the lower floor at the last second. Took you long enough, Drake told me. Fuck you, I replied between heavy breaths. He rolled his eyes in response. When my lungs settled down, we checked if the coast was clear, then made our way into the hall. What's this? Lola asked, picking up a piece of paper she noticed along the wall. It was one of the scavenger hunt flyers. That means there might be more people down here, she continued. We should go find them. No, I told her. We should get the hell out. And leave them here? Okay. First off, how do we know they haven't left already? Secondly, how do we know those things haven't gotten to them? Miller joined the conversation. Look, I know how you feel about this, Lola, he said, but if we escape, we have a better chance of getting help for anyone still trapped here. The look in her eyes was that of a person desperately trying to think of a good counter-argument and having none come to mind. Reluctantly, she agreed. Another problem we're having now is a lack of food. Drake and I ate a good bit before the scavenger hunt began, plus we brought some nutrition bars with us. Lola and Miller also happened to bring snacks. Unfortunately, we went through them last night. Only crumbs remained. My stomach rumbled as we were walking. This bites, I complained to Miller. Why didn't we bring more food with us? Because we didn't know any of this shit was going to happen. Now shut up and keep moving. Is anyone else noticing something off? Lola asked. My first instinct was to reply, what isn't off about this place? Instead, I kept my yap zipped. What do you mean, Lola? Miller inquired. The floors and walls, don't they seem newer than where we've been so far? She was right. I mean, we knew some renovations were done to make the building somewhat functional. However, the hospital up until that point was mostly run down with junk scattered everywhere. Where we were now looked brand new. So, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I asked. Granted, it was a welcome change and certainly a lot warmer. Then again, it didn't take a genius to figure out whoever had this place fixed out was also probably connected to those monsters somehow. Only one way to find out, Drake said. It wasn't long before we came across a room with an open door. The ones we'd seen up until then were locked, so we decided to go in for a closer look. Holy fuck. The words came out of my mouth in sort of a whisper scream. The room in front of us was a mess. Clearly there was a struggle. What was the most ominous was the broken straps attached to the bed. Whatever happened there, we didn't want to know. Hey, look, Lola exclaimed. She was pointing past Miller's foot. Something was sticking out from under the bed. It's one of the flyers, he told us after picking it up. So, does that mean the other contestants were kidnapped? I asked. Seems that way. Hang on, there's something stuck to your shoe. I checked it, and it turned out there was a key card attached to my sole. Oh, cool, this'll come in handy. I pocketed it, and we left the room. It didn't take us long to hear someone coming near us. It sounded like two people wheeling something. We overheard a brief conversation between them. Do you think this one will be a dud too? Roger said he's made some adjustments, so hopefully this one doesn't turn out like the others. It better. I swear we've been going through these people like hotcakes. There was a tense moment when they rounded a corner that was close to us. Luckily, we weren't spotted when they passed by. At least we wouldn't have been if I didn't sneeze. In my defense, it came out of nowhere. My body gave me no warning. God damn it, Gus, Drake hissed at me. The two men rounded the corner towards us. We acted fast, hitting their heads with our chair legs, knocking them out. They appeared to be wearing uniforms of some kind. A symbol was on their shirts of an eagle surrounded by a starry night sky. "Do you recognize this?" Miller asked Lola. She shook her head. We searched them, finding some guns and tasers on them, as well as some more key cards that were different from the one we found. I may have also taken the credit cards and cash from their wallets when nobody was looking. "Jesus Christ!" Drake exclaimed. My breath caught in my throat when I saw what he was seeing. What the men were wheeling had been a sick man strapped to a bed. Actually, sick is an understatement. He didn't seem like he should have been alive. Honestly, we thought he wasn't until we noticed his chest rising and falling. He was emaciated, with yellow pulsing veins running up and down his body. "What did they do to him?" Lola asked in a hoarse whisper. As if in response to her question, the man's eyes opened. They freaked me out the most because they seemed as if they were on the verge of bursting. We could see yellow pus in the whites. "I think he's trying to say something," Miller said. The man's lips were moving, but no sounds were coming out. "Don't worry," Lola told him. "We'll get you help." The man struggled some more and was able to speak. Please kill me." We were taken aback by his words. Don't let me become one of them." We guessed he was referring to one of the creatures. "What'd they do to you?" Miller asked him. Experiments. Get out while you can." Suddenly, he began convulsing. Not knowing what was about to happen, we backed away. Have you ever seen that stomach mouth scene in The Thing? What happened was akin to that, except it was a bunch of little mouths on the man's body. Tendrils shot out from them, whipping around. "What in the fuck?" I said. Each one contained a needle on their ends. Needles don't normally freak me out. However, given the circumstances, I think it's understandable that they freaked me the hell out. They continued moving until they touched the unconscious men on the floor. They seized them, then all at once, they stuck into them all over. Their eyes opened and they screamed in pain, which attracted unwanted attention. The marching of heavy boots echoed throughout the hall. We ran. I glanced back briefly, seeing the two men rapidly getting thinner. I think those tendrils were sucking out their fluids, and it wasn't pretty to see. While we were running, we overheard some more people talking. I couldn't really make it out. Something about injecting, I think? Hopefully, they keep whatever that guy turned into from escaping. Anyway, I do have a bit of good news. We were able to find some food via vending machines. At least we have that going for us. Now, if only we could find a way out of here. This place is weird. I feel like we should have found some kind of exit by now. After all, we've been here for what? 3 nights now? Come to think of it, I do find it odd that we haven't seen any daylight since we've been here. Then again, it could just be the blizzard making things gloomy. In any case, I'll keep updating. See you all tomorrow. That Erickson guy needs to go. This goes without saying, but I'm beginning to get really sick of this place. Shit went south fast after my last update. We found a decent place to rest up for the night, or we thought we did. It was agreed upon that one of us would keep watch and that we'd rotate every 2 hours. It was halfway through my shift when rattling came from a nearby vent. At first I ignored it, but then it was followed by shrieking. Now I was starting to suspect the cause was not due to faulty wiring. This realization came with ever-increasing nervousness. "Guys," I said in a soft, sort of yelling whisper. They didn't respond, so I repeated myself a little louder. "What?" Drake groggily asked. He, along with Lola and Miller, bolted upright. The sounds continued getting closer as we got ready with our weapons. Something banged against the vent, denting it outward. Another bang and it came loose. Peeking out at us, we initially thought to be a pair of human eyes. This assumption was quickly disproven. While the thing looking at us had been human at one point, it wasn't now. That is, unless there are people with insect-like mandibles in place of jaws, not to mention the many arms in place of legs with lengthy, overgrown yellow nails. It was sizing us up, and yours truly was the unfortunate object of its focus. "Why does this ugly thing have to be looking at me?" I asked, brandishing my weapon in shaky hands. "So you'd rather have it be one of us, you asshole?" Miller replied. "That's not what I meant. I was just..." It lunged at me. I let out a scream that sounded a bit more high-pitched than I'd like to admit, then reflexively thrust the sharp end of my chair leg forward. While I did manage to stab its eye, that didn't so much as slow it down as it tackled me to the floor. It was only by virtue of the chair leg sticking from its eye and me getting a leg under it that I was able to keep it from tearing into me. "Do something!" I yelled. My vision was obstructed, but I could hear a lot of stabbing going on. There was a sort of crunching squelch, and the thing fell silent. I pushed it off, quickly scooting back. We didn't have time to catch our breaths as the thudding of many approaching boots was coming toward us. Next thing I knew, we were surrounded by armed guards in SWAT-esque armor. "Oh, good thing," Drake told me as we were being forced to walk with our arms up and guns pointed at us. "How is this my fault?" "I don't know. Maybe it was because you kept screaming your head off back there." "And you didn't?" One of them told us to keep quiet. I could tell Drake wanted to utilize his colorful vocabulary to retort. Luckily, he managed to hold his tongue. Our phones were confiscated, and we were each taken to separate rooms. "Let me go," I demanded, and was met with a moment of awkward silence. "No," one of the guards replied flatly. Honestly, I don't know what I was expecting. Worth a shot, though, I guess. They closed and locked the door, leaving me alone save for a security camera. I was in another one of those patient rooms, so I at least had a bed to wait on. Hours went by, and I was debating whether or not I was getting ready to take a leak in the corner when the door was open, revealing 2 armed men and a guy in a lab coat holding a clipboard. "What are you doing?" the guy in the lab coat asked. "Nothing," I replied, hoping nobody noticed me zipping up. They either didn't or chose to ignore it. "My name is Professor Robinson," lab coat guy informed me. "It's a pleasure to meet you," I told him, forcing a smile. "And now that we've been properly introduced, how about you send my friends and I on our merry way, and then we can never speak of this again." If only it were that simple. Unfortunately, we didn't go through all the trouble to get you here for nothing. Scavenger hunt? This isn't the place for questions. At least let me know if my friends are all right. They're fine for now. Well, except for that one guy we needed to tranquilize for assaulting one of our staff. What did he do? He kicked him in the privates. Sounds about right. Pardon? Oh, nothing. I was escorted out of the room in handcuffs and taken to a laboratory where another man in a lab coat was waiting. Something off about it was that it looked as if some kind of patch was on the right shoulder previously that was removed. To describe his appearance, imagine if a younger Emmett Brown smoked a fuck ton of crystal meth and yet was somehow able to retain all his teeth. He was surrounded by medical equipment and jars of clear blue fluid, which I quickly realized with apprehension were filled with different body parts. "Well," he said, grinning like the leader of a cackle, sizing up prey, "I do hope you've been enjoying your stay here, Gus." Somehow, I got the feeling getting on this guy's bad side wouldn't be a good idea. "It's kept us safe from the cold. I'm sorry, who are you?" "Call me Dr. Erickson, and I am the greatest scientific mind. Unfortunately, many people fail to recognize my greatness." "Sorry to hear that. What exactly are you trying to do here anyway?" "I'm glad you asked. If you must know, I am working on pushing humanity to the next level of evolution. I'm sure you've already met some of my experiments." "If I met, you mean nearly got torn apart by?" "Then yeah," I wanted to say. Instead, I was a bit more level with my response. "A couple. What exactly are you planning on doing with them?" "For now, my primary objective is revenge." "Against who?" "I used to be part of a government branch until they tried to have me eliminated." "Why?" I managed to locate the file they kept on me. Can you believe they had the nerve to put down that I, quote, show signs of acute mental instability? My eyes were briefly drawn to a jar containing a severed head with its eyes gouged out before focusing back on him. Can't imagine why, I replied, not wanting to meet a similar fate. Indeed, you seem very sensible, which is why I'm offering you a choice. Really? What is it? For you and your friends to be my next test subjects. I'm close to making a breakthrough. If I may ask, what is the alternative? Being a meal for them getting thrown out into the freezing cold. Ultimatums are cruel sometimes. Is there an option where my friends and I leave safely? I asked. He sighed. If only, but you've seen too much. I'll have to consult someone on this decision. He then turned to the aforementioned severed head in a jar. What do you think? Despite his lack of reply, Erickson kept nodding his head for several seconds. I got the strong urge to slowly back away, then run like the wind. I would have done this if it weren't for the guards outside. Yes, he laughed. It's so simple. It's genius. Why didn't I think of it? He turned back to me, smiling wider. I take it you've got an idea, I asked, slightly leaning away. Indeed, I do. Thanks to my wife. She's so smart. Wife? Oh. Up until now, we've only been combining biological subjects. However, we will now be combining organic as well as artificial material. When it dawned on me what he was implying, involuntarily I began slowly backing away. That sounds fascinating, but I don't think we're the right ones for it. Oh, nonsense! This'll be great! He called for some guards and ordered them to tranquilize me. I tried dodging, only to be immediately hit by 2 darts. Upon waking, I found myself naked and strapped to an operating table. What are you crazy motherfuckers planning? I heard a familiar voice yell. Drake? Gus! Man, I'm glad to see you. Well, not see here, but you know what I mean. Same here. These bars are cold, by the way. I heard you kick someone in the dick? 2 people, actually. Nice. Can you move your head? No. Me either. Do you think Lola and Miller are doing better than us? Hell if I know. The door opened and in came Erickson and Robinson along with some assistants. Each wore masks, gloves, and those shower cap looking things. We understand your confusion, Erickson said. But much like your 2 friends, you are about to be brought much closer together. Me and Drake looked at each other. That's right, Erickson exclaimed, plunking himself. You haven't seen what we did to them. Robinson, bring in the couple board. The what? I inquired. Robinson took out a remote, pressing one of the buttons. That caused some unnerving noises to become audible. This was a mechanic whirring accompanied by raspy breathing. In stepped something that I don't think I'll ever see topped. And what the fuckness? It was Lola and Miller. Only they were fused together in one cyborg body. It's like they say, Erickson cackled, 2 heads are better than 1. Given their current state, the fact they were functioning at all was a miracle. I'm using the word extremely loosely, by the way. Unfortunately for me, it's still fresh in my mind. Fortunately for this post, that means I can adequately describe it. As what Erickson said implies, they shared a single body. Their necks were extended via some metal coils with wires running through them that were attached to a singular metal body with red beeping lights. They were also given 4 metallic arms, giving them 8 limbs in total. If this was the fucked up cake, the fact that they were still alive was the icing. Excuse me, Drake said, which was eerily unlike him. What did you say your name was again? Erickson. Right. Now, Erickson, I'm not sure if anyone has put this to you so bluntly, but you are out of your fucking mind." He only gave the laugh of a hyena on nitrous oxide in response, then ordered Robinson to make Lola and Miller begin the procedure that would make us like them. I nearly shat myself when the new appendages sprouted various surgical instruments. We let out a string of curses while struggling to get free. We got so lucky. There was a power outage which caused our restraints to be turned off since they were electronic. "Don't let them escape no matter what," Erickson commanded. So we ended up escaping. It really wasn't difficult since the light the Lola and Miller bot gave off illuminated the exit. Also, the fact they went haywire? Yeah, apparently rushing the procedure caused some unforeseen malfunctions. To summarize the incident, most of the people in there got butchered. While that was going on, we ran out into the hall. We kept running until we needed to stop and catch our breath. "That was way too close," Drake said between heavy breaths. Drake? What? We're still naked. Oh, right. The two of us continued for a brief period when we came across another room. "Hey," I pointed, "does that say lost and found?" "I think it does." Sure enough, it did. And inside we found our clothes and phone. We also found a charging cord along with a portable battery pack. Small victories, I guess. The big one will be making it out of here alive. I wish I could say I was confident about our chances. Unfortunately, we're hearing more of those things again. Between becoming victims to them or meeting the same fate as Lola and Miller, we got our work cut out for us. I'm going to try and get some sleep now, the key word being trying. After seeing that, I really don't want to be caught off guard in this place again. Wish us luck, I guess, and good night. I hope that nut Erickson gets put away for good. Why are they showing up here now? I whispered. Maybe the lights were keeping them away. Well, that's just great. We're basically sitting ducks. Maybe we can find something to use. Like what? I don't know. Help me search. What we found were 2 box cutters, a bag of beef jerky, some flashlights, a Swiss Army knife, a lighter, and a flask. Wasn't this Rob's? I asked. I think so, Drake said, putting it to his ear and shaking it. Sounds like there's a lot left inside. Of what? Drake unscrewed the cap. Wow, he said as his nose wrinkled at the smell. I think it's vodka. He sniffed again. Yep, that's definitely vodka. What kind? Spirituous, I think. Man, how is Rob not already dead from alcohol poisoning? Beats me, anyway. I don't hear them anymore, so I think the coast is clear. We left the room, seeing as how we ran aimlessly to escape Erickson last night. We had no clue where we were in relation to any potential exits. And therefore, we did what I think most people would in our situation. We said, fuck it, winging it and going in a random direction. This worked because we finally found some stairs. Naturally, we were ecstatic as we made our way down multiple flights of stairs to reach the first floor. Our optimism met its end at the sight of what lay on the floor below. There was some kind of freaky as hell human centipede thing. Basically, it was 4 torsos and sets of arms attached to a single head. Whoever this was had various wires running from their neck to their scalp. Back up, I yelled. Back the fuck up! It rapidly crawled up the stairs toward us while letting out raspy breaths. My ankle was grabbed as we attempted to run, and I was pulled down. Why does this keep happening to me? I screamed as I was trying to keep the thing from my face. I would have immediately pulled out my box cutter if it weren't for the fact I needed both hands to keep the creature at bay. Lucky for me, Drake was there. He threw a shoe at it, hitting it dead on. While it was momentarily stunned, I pulled out my box cutter and stabbed it in the eye, and then grabbed handfuls of its wires and started pulling them out. When it stopped moving, I kicked it back down the stairs. I heard something this way, we heard someone yell. This was followed by the sound of many heavy boots heading our way. Drake glared at me, and we got out of Dodge. We figured they would most likely be going downstairs to search for us. Therefore, we went back upstairs. We waited until the footsteps faded, then continued our descent. We were a floor from the first when we ran into more trouble. We stopped because I heard something that put me on edge. Do you recognize that sound? I asked in a low voice. Heavy breathing. That's par for the course in this place. Yeah, I know, but it sounds familiar. Drake listened more closely, and recognition came into his eyes as well. As a precaution, we got our box cutters out as well as the army knife. Robert was waiting for us at the bottom step, and he'd been considerably changed. For one thing, he was naked. For another, there were now metal plates embedded throughout his body, and his eyes were a sickly yellow. There was also blue lights embedded under his skin, which gave off a low illumination. There was a brief stare down, and then he went berserk, lunging at us. It happened so fast. I shrieked, and we jumped out of the way. His appearance wasn't the only thing changed about him. When he lost balance, he grabbed the railing to pull himself back up, and the fucking bars bent. From that, we got a strong hunch our weaponry wouldn't do much good against him. As he was getting back up, we kicked him back downstairs and then ran into the nearest door. We were immediately greeted by a bunch of guns being pointed at us. You know that gut-sinking feeling you get when you have to decide between two impossible choices? That was hitting me full force. In this case, it was dealing with Robert or getting shot. The guards went to arrest us when who should show up but Robert? He leaped through the doorway. Luckily, we detected him in the nick of time and once again evaded him. The guards weren't so lucky. The nearest one was tackled to the floor. Despite his heavy armor and helmet, Robert was able to crush his skull. The others fired on him, nearly shooting us in the process. "Watch it, assholes!" Drake yelled at them. We went to flee back downstairs. However, two of them went after us. They tried to grab us, and we kicked them in the balls and ran. The others were trying to take down Robert. The last we saw as we were running was one of them getting his head smashed against the wall. "Can this place give us a break for once?" I asked, collapsing to my knees in exhaustion. I was frustrated, scared, and tired. I wanted it all to be over. "Yes, I know you've been through a lot. I have too, and the sooner we can get a move on, the sooner we can get out of here." "I know. I need a break, though. Can I see the jerky?" After a brief snack, we kept going, turning quarters whenever an unnerving noise reached us. "Holy shit!" Drake exclaimed. "What?" "Look at the door." It was labeled "Fire Exit." "Oh, thank Christ," I said. Before we could find our salvation through it, we heard the clicking of a gun. We turned to see Erickson holding a revolver and the jar of the severed head. "So, you thought you could escape, did you?" he told us with an insane glint in his eyes. "I mean, yeah, kinda," I replied. "Well, you can forget about it. What should I do to them, honey?" Once again, the head gave no reply. "Skin them alive first before I experiment? This is why I married you." I gave Drake a do-something look, and he gestured to his pocket. This was when I noticed the handle of a gun peeking out of it. Figuring he must have stolen it from one of the guards, I gave him a brief nod and waited for his signal. Erickson turned back to us. "I wouldn't normally be bothered doing this kind of grunt work, but as the saying goes, sometimes if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself." He walked behind us, still pointing the revolver. "I can remember our first honeymoon. Isn't she pretty?" Me and Drake looked at each other. "Yeah, she's a real knockout," I told Erickson. "You know," he replied, "I might sedate you before the procedure." "Aren't I lucky?" "Indeed you are. If only your friend would have shown more respect." Drake was about to tell him something akin to "go fuck yourself." I shook my head, looking at him with wide eyes. He was able to keep his cool, and we eventually reached another surgery room with 2 tables. "You go first," Erickson ordered of Drake, "and don't worry, the others will be down soon enough." "Gus, now!" Drake yelled. Erickson was turning to me, intending to fire. Luckily, I was faster. Not faster than him pulling the trigger. I mean, I was able to do what I needed to do before he could train his gun on me again. I threw the army knife at him, and it went into his shoulder. Out of reflex, he dropped the revolver and the head in the jar. It shattered, and he screamed. "Look what you did!" he shouted. "You messed up our hair!" Drake pistol-whipped him, knocking him unconscious. Then we headed back to the fire exit. "Do you still have the flask?" Drake asked. Yeah, why?" "Let me see it." I handed it to him, and he poured it over the drywall, then took out the matches. "Fuck this place," he said, striking one and throwing it onto the vodka. The place became aflame, and we ran out the fire exit, eventually coming to the outside parking garage. "It's freezing," I shivered. "Which way was your car?" "This way," Drake pointed. I should mention at this time, the blizzard had mostly died down, now reduced to mere flurries. Back in the Lost and Found, we also came across Drake's car keys, so we were able to get back in his car and drive away. "We made it!" I laughed. "We actually fucking made it!" What happened next embodies the meaning of the saying, "Don't jinx it." A mutant grizzly bear came after us. Yes, a grizzly that was modified. The goddamn thing jumped from the upper deck of the parking garage, landing on the car. It, too, received mechanical enhancements, making it faster and stronger. I screamed my head off as it flipped the car, sending it hurtling through the air. It landed upside down, shattering the windows on impact. We couldn't move as the grizzly walked towards us. His claws were metal and could probably shred the car like paper, so things weren't looking good for us. "Drake, can you move?" "No. You?" "Wish I could. Looks like this is it." Damn it! And we were so close! The bear came closer, stopping in front of Drake. I squeezed my eyes shut so I wouldn't have to see what happened next. The blaring of sirens reached us. This was followed by a barrage of gunfire. The bear was practically blown to pieces. Some FBI-looking guys stopped in front of Drake's overturned car. After pulling us out, they had us taken to the hospital. Some of them questioned us once we were in stable condition. We explained things as best we could. They told us Erickson and the others were detained and thanked us for our help. "This fucking bites," Drake said once they left and we were alone in the hospital room. "At least we're still alive," I pointed out, "and your car is insured." "But our health isn't. All that work for nothing." "Maybe not." "What do you mean?" I flashed them the cards and money I stole from some of the guards. "When did you?" "When we talked to that sick guy a couple nights ago. Remember the guys we knocked out?" "Oh yeah. How much is that anyway?" When I finished counting, we realized it actually far exceeded the amount we would have gotten with the prize money. We're also planning on making use of the cards I found via some ATMs. I say, if someone tries to murder you, rob them. Rob them blind. That bastard Erickson definitely deserves it. Wherever they're taking that psycho, I hope he never escapes. This is probably wishful thinking on my part. However, I also hope his victims can somehow be cured. The fact we nearly ended up like that isn't doing wonders for us in the sleep department. I should leave it off here, though, and try to get some rest. Hopefully, we don't have to deal with anything similar again. We'll be getting an Uber to drive us home from the hospital in the morning. Weird that the weather is still strange, though. Oh well. Good night, everyone.